Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the show. My name, of course, is Matt Gardner, and I'm having, for the second time, a gentleman by the name of Rich Hill, RK Athletics. Rich, how are you today?
I am cold on you.
Yes.
You're on the inside. I am warm with holiday cheer.
Oh, I love that. You turned that. You spun that very well. I love it. Yeah. So, we're both Edmonton boys here, Edmonton, Alberta, Canada. It is currently with wind chill, what, minus 45 right now? Literally? Is that in
Well,
and around that?
actually, right now it's a balmy minus 28.
Oh, it
So
warmed up. Oh, yes.
warmed up a
Yes.
little bit.
Yeah.
With the wind chill though, I'm sure it's still minus 38. But
Right? Yeah.
in some
It's
places in town, it's going to be minus 50 with the wind chill apparently. So
like out of the airport outskirts of
yeah,
Edmonton.
yeah.
Yeah. So that's
Wind-
happening. Second day of winter at time recording here is the 22nd of December. And man, so there you go. That's the Edmonton winter for you, for sure. Now you're a Yukon boy. You're up from anybody that was okay. So the listeners from the States, this is like right beside Alaska, right? This is where you're from Yukon
Directly
territory.
beside Alaska. That's right.
Yeah,
Actually,
right.
my hometown is 2 hours away from a place called Skagway, Alaska.
Very cool. Very cool. Okay, so that gives some context. So you were used to, growing up, you had some pretty sinister winter storms, I'm sure.
You know what? Actually, like winter storm, not so much. We don't get
Okay.
it's pretty dry up there, right? So you
Oh,
don't get
okay.
you don't get a ton of precipitation, but you do
Yeah,
get cold.
for
And the
sure.
cold kind of lingers, right? Because
Yeah.
it's a little bit more up north, it's a little bit darker.
Yeah,
More than anything, it's probably the darkness over the winter that really gets people. But
for sure.
again, the cold is very much the same, but a little bit more elongated.
Okay. And then, yeah, I imagine we talked about this when you were on the first time, but like you had like the 24-hour darkness, right? For a part
Uh,
of the winter, or is that like a
that,
week of that?
that's much more higher up
Oh,
in
is it? Okay.
the
Yeah.
Arctic. For us, actually, with yesterday being the shortest day of the year,
Yes.
actually, I looked it up. The sun rose at, I believe it was 11:15, and the sun set at 4:40.
Okay.
So
So there
just a
was
little bit of context.
4.5 or 5 hours of sunlight,
You
right?
get about
Okay.
5 hours
Yeah.
of sunlight,
5 hours of light.
but again, it's like dusk, right? So
Yeah.
the sun
Right.
just basically pops up just a bit
Yeah.
and then comes right
Yeah.
back down. So you don't
For
really
sure.
see it. Like
Yeah.
it's wild because you're out at like 3:30 and it feels like it's 7.
Right. Interesting. Yeah. That'd be something to get used to, for sure. Cool. We did our first podcast. It was all about holiday survival, setting resolutions that'll stick. Also, some background information on yourself. I really enjoyed the episode, and yeah, it's got some good listenership behind it. I think shout out to the
Yeah,
BNI
my
folks,
fans
right?
follow me
Yeah,
everywhere I
that's
go.
right. Yeah, you just can't help it, right? You're a likable guy. So yeah, I want to get into this. So I'm going to give you the opportunity to, personal trainers and myself, any coaches. This is a big time for us. And as a result, because of the clients, the people we work with, it's a big time for them as well. A chance to sort of reinvest in yourself, reinvent yourself essentially is that been January 1st and on. So I'd love to give you an opportunity to, the open platform, just what you have going on in the new year and the offering that you have in the different programs or groups that you're going to be facilitating. So the floor is yours, and I'll jump in with any sort of follow-up questions as you go.
Yeah, absolutely. So kind of like what you said, like reinventing yourself. So this new year, I want to help people kind of reinvent the way that they're looking at their New Year's resolutions. Obviously, like there's almost like a big battle for people like saying you don't need resolutions and resolutions are bad and blah, blah, blah. It's like resolutions are fantastic. There's no problem with starting on a Monday. There's no problem starting on New Year's. It's that kind of defined start point that a lot of people need to just mentally flick that switch and be ready to go, right? Having that preparation, like it's much harder to sit there and be like, I need help, I'm going to go tomorrow. It's a lot easier to sit there and be like, okay, I need help, I need to go on Monday. And then you can think about it, you can mentally prepare yourself and make sure that you're actually prepared to commit to the process. But coming up this January, basically what I'm looking to do is for 90 days, helping people basically create the new year that they want. So basically the program's called the 90-Day New Year Plan, a way to actually achieve what you set out to do this New Year's resolution, especially when it comes to your fitness and health goals. So basically it's 90 days of personal training. There's going to be a ton of bonuses added into that as well. I haven't kind of gotten everything finalized, but a lot of that's going to be released next week on my social media pages. So if you're not following me on social media, cheap plug, follow my at RK Athletics 1 on Instagram is usually the most active, but you can also follow me on Facebook at RK Athletics. You can follow me on Twitter at RK Athletics 1 as well. TikTok is just more for fun than anything. So Instagram, Facebook are usually the best ways to connect and actually see what the program is coming up. But I'm really excited about it because, again, I think a lot of people really struggle with the New Year's side of things. They start off January so motivated and they're just ready to go. And then, that one thing happens where it just kind of sets them back, whether they go to the gym and maybe they go a little too hard, so their knees kind of bugging them. So they don't go to the gym for the next 3 weeks and they just fall out of that habit. Or, some places will have their Christmas parties in January. So things are going well dietary wise. And then they have that Christmas party. They feel like they lost or they just fell off the wagon, hard to get back on. So I want to help those people commit to themselves for 90 days, right? 3 months, 90 days. Most people can commit to something along that lines. It takes us right up to March, going into spring, kind of starting things off in a good way and have the tools to be able to do this for the rest of the year, right? So it's not just training the body, but it's also training the mind to establish new habits, to establish good, healthy habits to move forward for the new year and, stay on track for the 12 months instead of the month and a half that most people have. I see a lot of people that end up buying a gym membership in January. They're still paying for it in December, but they stopped using it in February.
Right.
So I want to make sure that people are using that, getting the most out of their money, and making sure that they're actually going to be seeing the results that they want to see during that time as well. Because obviously it's one thing to set up good habits, but people want to see results quick. So my goal is to help people feel better in month 1, whether that's just their body's moving better, their digestion's going better, they have more energy. Month 2 is really going to be where we start to see more recomposition, where it's either dropping body fat, building up a little bit of muscle, and starting to see those changes on the scale. And then month 3 is really where we nail in those habits, make sure that we're good to go for the rest of the year. And if people aren't ready, I have cool little offers for people to continue on if they really enjoy the service or figure out a way to help with that accountability side of things moving forward as well. So whether that's in person, online, or just program designing, it's pretty straightforward from there.
Very cool. A lot of thought put into it. Just writing some notes. The first thing that comes up for me, the first question is, so the 90-day thing, is that all like one-on-one? Is it online? Is it like it's sort of a combination of the two? Is it group coaching, or is it sort of depend on the person? What sort of offerings are available that way?
So the 90-day is all in person. So it's going to be in person, one-on-one personal training. I want to make sure that people are set up for success for them. Again, I can always accommodate if there's a couple that want to work out together and really want to support each other on that journey.
Cool.
More than anything, like this is usually a personal journey, right? So people, even couples that want to do this together, it's good to have that individualization because what one person's issues aren't going to be what the other person's issues are, right? And figuring out different ways to get over those hurdles. If somebody's a stay-at-home mom, that's a lot more difficult than somebody that's going to the office 5 days a week to do work, right? Like your schedules are completely different. Your accessibility to food is completely different. A trades worker is going to be way different than somebody that's blue collar working, white collar working.
Totally.
So it's like individuals need individualization, and that's where this program is really effective. Is you get individualized attention, customization of everything, and making sure that we're working to where you're at and not just necessarily a one size fits all program. So that's why the one-on-one side of things is the bread and butter.
Yeah, I could see that. I like the like you say, it's a journey. Like it's 90 days, so it's month 1. Just the idea of feeling better. Right. So like you said, I think a lot of people do go in with it, and correct me if I'm wrong, with the optics. The whole idea is like, I want to start seeing some results, where if you're focusing on the fact that you have more energy, it's a little more intangible versus the tangible. I can see this the way that I'm looking. That's, that'll be month 2. So month 1 is like, you're going to notice you're sleeping better. You're going to notice like you're feeling more energetic, so forth. So
better sex during that time.
There you go.
Let's look at things that are awesome, right?
Yes.
It's not always like, let's have more energy throughout the day. Let's feel like your elbows feeling good. Let's have better
Yeah.
performance in the bedroom. Let's have a little bit more
Yeah.
on that side of things. Like,
Totally. Yeah, exactly. So exactly. So it's like, that's taking it one step further. So you're gonna have more energy. What are you gonna do with that extra energy? Better
exactly.
sex, right? It's like, who knows? Just different things you've had on your periphery, like snowshoeing, or, you know what I mean? Some kind of winter activity that you've always wanted to do. And now you're actually gonna have the energy to do it after you've done a long shift at work, right? So
Well, even for a lot of my clients, it's looking at it like that weekly hockey game they played, they're not feeling as gassed afterwards. They're
totally.
not feeling stiff and sore the next day. They don't need the entire week to recover from that game. Now they just kind of rebound. They wake up the next day and they're like, oh, damn, my legs feel fine. Like,
Yeah.
I feel great.
That's
I can
another
do this again.
Totally.
Right?
That's another like potentially overlooked thing is the recovery time too, right? Is the ability to
Absolutely.
bounce back, the resiliency, that feeling that perhaps you thought, oh, this is just, you've reserved yourself to the fact that, oh, this is just getting older. Like I'm just, my energy's accepting that about yourself, and then realizing, no, I do have some control over this, right? So I imagine that's such a empowering feeling to, to help somebody or guide somebody to get to.
And it's great that you bring that up, because that's a big part of the New Year's mentality, right? So when we talk about like redefining your year, we need to redefine how we look at ourselves and how we, not identify is kind of the wrong word, but I guess label ourselves. Because when people start putting that label of like, well, I'm just getting older, right? You're going to view yourself as old. You're going to view yourself as broken down. You're going to view yourself as like, well, I have a bad shoulder and I have a bad knee. Well, that's because I'm old. It's like, you don't need these things. You're putting those limiting self-beliefs on yourself, like on your own. Like, you're not letting other people, you're not letting actual actions dictate this. You're just kind of putting that label on it.
For sure.
It's amazing what happens when you just switch that viewpoint of yourself, because if you just look at like, again, New Year's is always such a good time for people that have a bit of a sweet tooth, right? But that itself is a self-identified label of like, hey, I have a sweet tooth and it's always been that way.
Right.
So it's going to be that way. So if you
totally
keep yourself, it's like, oh, well, I just have a sweet tooth. You're always giving yourself that excuse to go to that chocolate bar, right? You need to change that mindset. I was listening to an awesome podcast, Dr. Huberman.
Huberman.
With Wayne Norton. It's a very long one, but there's a lot of great information. They were talking about a famous actor who lost like 300 pounds and is in phenomenal shape now. And basically said, like, every day I go to the gym, I kill my old identity.
Right.
It's like you have to get rid of that mindset of like, I'm just fat. That's just
totally, dude.
Right. It's like, no, you put yourself in those shoe boxes. You're only going to be in that shoebox. So we want to break open that shoebox and let people actually know that there's more out there for them. There's more potential for their life. They don't just have to kind of live how things have always been.
Totally. I love that, dude. And this it gets into, the work that I do, my bread and butter is like mindset, right? So, the idea that identity isn't something that has to be set in stone. And you're saying it's the idea that like identity is like transitory. You're not always going to be a certain way. You don't have to always be a certain way. So just because you have evidence of something from your past doesn't mean that's going to dictate your future. So and you have that choice. So and what I always look at is like, the reticular activating system. It's like, or the brain is like a Google search engine, right? If you put in the search engine something dismissive, sweet tooth, or I'm not a gym guy, your brain's going to go into show evidence. It's going to have these supportive articles. Whereas if you're like, you put something else in there, like I am signed up with Rich for 90 days, you type that in the search engine, all of a sudden it's going to bring you all this new evidence, or like, get you excited about it. Right. So really cool stuff. So they were talking about resolutions. 90 days, New Year plan. I love it. Okay, well, how important are habits? And I want to get into the whole idea of like, so 90 days, there's the 21-90 rule or whatever. I don't know if it's a set rule, but it's the idea that there's 21 days to change a habit. It's like the wet cement, and then 90 days to really lock it in. So is that sort of where you're going with that? As far as like, for example, I'm looking at month 1 to feel better. So that's, that feeling out process, the recalibration, starting to see some results, more of the intangibles, that 21 days to start changing the habits. And then month 3 from what I remember you saying, is very much just, okay, let's just like nail these down. It's like cure the cement, and then you can carry on from that. Is that sort of the idea, like the 2190 rule? Are you familiar with that? Is that something that you integrated? Okay, cool.
I'm very, very, very familiar with that concept. Like 21 days to kind of build up a new habit, 90 to cement it, like you said. But yeah, like that, you kind of nailed it on the head. Like 90 days is a great time frame for people to build new habits, but realistically, it's short enough that people commit to it. Right.
Like
it's like, if I could, I would be like, hey guys, here's a month, here's a year-long plan. I'm going to be helping you all year long. You're going to do awesome. Most people aren't brainwired to just be like, hey, you know what? I just heard this guy talk on this awesome podcast. I'm going to do a year with this person. They want to know that they're actually signing up for something that's going to be valuable for them.
Right.
Like, are we going to see big changes in 90 days? Absolutely, we can. But can we see better changes in a full year? 100%, right? So even that 90 days is almost like a little tryout for myself, right? I also have guarantees along the way where it's like, you know what, if you're not happy with how I approach things in the first 2 weeks, cool, I'll give your money back for free. It's 2 weeks of personal training right there. There you go.
Beauty.
Because I want to make sure that people don't have that buyer's remorse. I don't want people like a month and a half in being like, well, this is crap. This is
feeling obligated or doing it for the wrong reasons, right?
And even in the first 30 days, like if people aren't feeling better, if people don't have more energy, if people aren't having more sex, if people aren't, losing weight, fitting in their clothes better, being able to lift more weights, if there's not a tangible way to show that we've seen results in that first month, I'll give them their money back again.
Dude, love it.
So it's just like that certainty for people is so important. And that's why like 90 days, 3 months, a lot of people can carve that time out of their year. Not a lot of people can look at an entire year and be like, I'm going to commit to that. A lot of people prove to themselves that they can do this first before they ever commit.
Yeah, right.
That's like, it's like it's like when you order a cleaner and you clean up your house first.
Yeah.
It's like, people will try to go to the gym first before they get a trainer because they don't want to be in bad shape for the trainer.
Right. Yeah. Interesting, right?
But the trainer is not there just for the workout. It's there for the accountability. It's there for the motivation. It's there for the support. So on days where it's minus 36 outside, you still have a reason to go to that gym because somebody's waiting for you. Someone's cheering for you. Somebody wants to help you see the best results possible. And that's what I'm here for, right? For 90 days. I want to make sure that I am the total support system. So if somebody needs something, they can reach out, we can talk, we can go into these things. If it's something that I can't handle, if there's lifestyle issues that I'm not familiar with, I have awesome resources like you to pass people to, right?
Absolutely.
So dealing with different coaching aspects, there are different physical issues that come up. It's not just folding in on ourselves the first time we feel a little bit of muscle soreness in our quads for the first time in, 10 years.
Right.
Going to be somebody there to be like, okay, well, you know what? Maybe we went a little too hard with the leg press or with your squats. So let's dial that back and get to a point where we can get through the workout, not kill you and not have you feeling like crap. So like, again, the first 30 days is more of just like, let's get into the habits. Let's get into the routine.
Right.
So a lot of times people will come in and they have, years of inactivity. They'll have, years of just not really doing anything. So if somebody's coming in with absolutely like no background history for years or for months, or they just really haven't pushed themselves very much, then it doesn't make sense for me to sit there and be like, okay, well, let's put you in a calorie deficit. Let's work you out hard and let's get you like doing what the latest bodybuilder is doing, right?
Sure. Yeah.
So it's like, we need to start slow so that you don't hate yourself 2 weeks in, and that you can see yourself doing this long term. So we get wins, we feel better throughout that first month. Month 2, that's when we start to dive into like, okay, we've kind of had a chance to get our nutrition into a place that we're happy with. We have a chance to get our body moving through the proper ranges of motion and making sure that we're actually stabilizing in those motions. And then we start to see those big changes in the body. Month 3, we set people up for success, whether they want to stay with me or whether they want to move on their own. That's really up to them. And I want to set them up so that they don't need to see me for the rest of their lives. They just need to make sure that they're sticking through with it, whether that's working with someone for 5 years, whether that's working with someone for a year, whether that's working for 3 months,
Yeah.
It's just I want to make sure that people are set up for success, because I hate to see someone see so much success on the front end, and then on the back end, and see them again and they fell right back off.
Yeah,
So
that's such a
habits
challenge.
it's such a challenge.
Yeah, right. And then to try
And
to
it's not
bounce back from that, it's like and we're talking about the mental game, like that's there's like the perceived failure, and then there's like the shame and guilt that
Yeah.
piles on it, and then they're embarrassed to come and see you again potentially, right? So I could see where it's like you really want to have this, like, the wet concrete of day
Yeah.
21 to just cured concrete, and then you're in their heads by the time and like you had mentioned, and we can get into this as well, you have some different intervals of different things that they can do coming out of this as well, right? Whether it's every couple months you check in with them, whatever that may be as well, I imagine too, right?
Yeah, well, and I've seen so many people, lose the same 10 to 15 pounds multiple times in their life,
Sure.
right?
Oh,
Tough,
absolutely.
but again,
Yeah.
it's just one of those, it's part of, unfortunately, sometimes it's just part of life. There's situations in life that happen that are completely out of our control, that have high stress situations. You lose a family member, there's a medical emergency,
For
work
sure.
goes crazy, your life gets flipped upside down by whatever,
Yep.
right? Layoffs,
Yep.
COVID, whatever it might be.
Yeah, man.
We need to adapt, and just having that support system is almost invaluable. So
Absolutely. Speaking of support system, is there, like, do you have on, say, your Facebook group, is that like, is there sort of a community of, like, do people find other like accountability buddies, you know what I mean, coming out of that? Like, is there a little bit of integration or interaction with your own community? Have you found?
yeah, you know what? That's a great subject to bring up. A lot of times I try to introduce a lot of my clients to each other, especially if they have sessions kind of back to back, just so people have a familiar face in the gym, even if that person's no longer really working out. Like, trying to introduce people is pretty nice most times. Not to say that it's always capable of doing it, but when available, obviously I try to do that as much as I can. I have that Facebook group. You're part of it now. It's not as active as I'd like it to be, honestly, but that's okay, because it's just grassroots. Build it up, and then the more people that are in there, obviously the more conversations can be had, the more people can connect with each other, and hopefully build a nice little community that's supportive, and people can actually help each other get through whatever they need to get through, whatever struggles there might be, or whatever fitness advice there might be. I find, you know what, like, I might have a lot of answers for people, but I haven't lived everybody's life. So there's people that have different life experiences for me. There's going to be people that have a lot more anecdotal support advice. Like, hey, you know what? It's like, I'm struggling with my nutrition. I have my answers, but somebody that's done this program before and has seen great success, they might have a different strategy to approach the same thing. So it's always nice to have like that community to help everybody out. And I'm not egotistical. I know I don't know everything. I know I'm not the most science-based, like, I'm not reading research articles all the time kind of guy. I read enough to kind of keep up with what's going on and latest things, especially things that interest me, but I'm not dedicating my entire life to reading research articles. I have other interests and hobbies, as we'll go into.
Absolutely.
But again, just helping people as much as possible. And if that can be in the small Facebook community, whether that's at the gym or any way possible, it's just all about that support. So I do have a couple clients that have become very good friends, which is really awesome to see. So see that kind of stuff. And hopefully as kind of time goes by, I'm able to do a little bit more of like events where people get together, or charity events where people can do different activities together, get to know each other, mingle around a little bit. As adults, it's a little bit hard to meet new people. Usually
100%, man.
As a youth, you meet a lot of people through college and high school and the place you grow up. Once you've kind of branched out of that, or as you kind of get older, your friend group tends to shrink a little bit. So it's kind of tough to meet new people with similar mindsets. So sometimes people, again, support systems, right? Sometimes people's support systems aren't necessarily conducive to their goals. If you have friends that want to go out drinking every single night, then you will probably end up going drinking with them the majority of the nights, right? So if you have a support system of people that are going out and, going for a run, going for a workout, doing the things that are going to help you get to your goal, that support system can actually help you get out of those negative habits into positive ones. So trying to build up support systems as much as possible, where obviously we can.
Yeah, I could see being super beneficial, like you were touching on, is like, you know, could be two people with like similar body types or similar ages that you're not, that's not you, right? Like you're a certain age, and there could be a couple other people, yeah, just perhaps a little bit older or whatever, and they just connect because they see each other's story in each other, and there's like boom, and that's something that's like you say, it's like you're not, that's just not you. So the ability to be able to do that and grow and as a community, and to your point, like the older you get, to find somebody that's like-minded and in the same trench or same foxhole as you. Yeah, absolutely. Super beneficial. So that's cool to hear that you're doing that. You know, in the 90 days coming out of this, the timing is so cool. Like you mentioned, I want to circle back to spring. Like this is like what gets you through to spring. Spring in itself to me is like an energetic season. It's like coming out of this like hibernation, right? Getting back into this like outdoor activities, right? All this different stuff. So just think if you're laying the groundwork for that, and then by the time spring hits, you got this new version of yourself, this redefined identity, or that we've been talking about. So very, very cool. And then from there, I guess this is a good time to bring it up. What sort of things do you offer, you know, coming out of this 90-day? Because you mentioned, because some people will be like, okay, this is great, I'll do my 90-day thing, but then what happens? Like, and then like, you know, immediately for some people be like, they start locking up. They're like, oh shit, well, what's going to happen to me after 90 days? So what, obviously it looks different for different people, but what kind of things do you offer as like, you know, aftercare or like coming out of this that you could offer as well?
Aftercare is a great way to put it, actually. So
Cool.
there's three different options. We can continue with the in-person side of things. So people that have made it through the intro 3 months will have special pricing for whether that's a monthly program or for a yearly program. So again, we can kind of figure out what's best for that individual. So whether somebody wants to do a little bit more month to month and kind of see how long they need to go, or if somebody wants to commit for the year, obviously the year gives a better discount because
Yeah.
bulk always does. If we're being
Yeah.
transparent.
Yeah.
Outside of that, like if people don't necessarily need somebody with them all the time, I also have online training options. So the online side of things is a weekly check-in, just whether it's phone calls, Skype, Zoom, whatever it might be, and just kind of going through like the week that was, see how everything's going, see where we can improve upon, and making sure that we're following through on our commitments. So whether that's just like the workouts, or if you're struggling nutritionally, or you're struggling with lifestyle, it's just, again, having that support system there to help people out. They have unlimited access to chatting with me anytime. But again, our calls are kind of where the majority of the work's done.
Mm.
That comes with a workout program, obviously, some nutritional advice on that side of things too. And then I actually have a program called my DIY fitness program. As the name says, it's do it yourself. It's basically just a workout program people can follow. Basically, right now I have it set as an 8-month cyclical hypertrophy, almost like a muscle building program more than anything, but like
Mm.
muscle building and fat burning, they're the same thing when it comes to workouts. It's just
Yeah.
the nutrition you adjust, right?
Okay.
So it challenges people to do a couple new things. You know, again, a lot of the movements that we'll go through in the actual 3-month program will actually go through in the DIY program. Those are people that just maybe, you know, they're too busy, they don't want set schedule dates, and they just want a workout to follow. So that
Right.
one's
Right.
a monthly subscription one. You can cancel anytime. Like I said, it goes 8-month cycle. So again, month to month, you can decide, okay, I want to keep going with this, or hey, I want to try to figure out how to do things on my own, or whether people want to scale back into personal training or back into online training. You can really kind of cycle through those three as needed.
Yeah, really cool. I love yeah, but you gotta, you know, credit you for, seems like there's a lot of thought put into, you know, the setting people up for success, really, like just the timing. There's definitely some thoughts put into your program, and then the success coming out of it and different avenues that they can go. Like you say, there's the more personal touch of the one-on-one, and then there's the do it yourself, and sort of everywhere in between, right? They have for options. So and not too many options, I might add. There's the 3, so keeping it like tight that way. So I kudos to you for having have everything set up here. Really cool. A couple more of like just abstract concepts I want to get into, because we are talking about like resolutions, and okay, is it good to set resolutions, and you know, there's like, you know, the fluctuation between all of that. So I want to get into like the actual idea of like motivation, because the same thing was like motivation. People say, well, motivate, like David Goggins is motivation is bullshit. People say, well, if you're going to wait till you're going to get motivated, you're never going to get anything done. Other people are like, well, I can be self-motivated. What is your take on like the whole, like just motivation, and how does it show up in like gym culture and, basically no question other than just the topic of motivation.
For sure. So like I do think that people have a misconception of motivation. I think that a lot of people view motivation as the first step to getting to things, when really it comes down to actions. Action leads to motivation, motivation leads to success. Right. So again, not to say that motivation can't come first, but if you don't use any action with that motivation, you're not getting anywhere, right? So you need to take action, and that's what's going to keep you motivated. So in my mind, I always look at it like when you're cleaning your house, right? You look at it, you're like, I don't really want to do this. But then you do your dishes and it's starting to look a little better. So you're like, okay, I can kind of see a bit of results. And then you're like, well, you know what? Let's wipe my counters down. It's like, okay, these are looking pretty good. Oh, the floor has some crumbs on it. Let's sweep those up. So then as that action's going and as you're seeing some of the success, you start to get a little bit more motivated. And that ball kind of starts rolling downhill where it's just like, okay, next thing you know, you're like reorganizing your house. You're going through your pantries, making sure you're clearing things out. You're getting things done on your to-do list that you didn't even think of, right? And it all starts with just doing one action.
Cool.
So that's the same thing as your fitness or your exercise. If you just go to the gym, you're going to do something, right? Go to the gym with your gym, with your gym clothes.
Yeah.
Just go.
Yeah.
And once you're in those doors, I guarantee you'll probably walk into that change room, get changed, and at least jump on a treadmill and walk.
Right. Right.
And once you start walking and once you feel more comfortable just with that walking, well, maybe you start to run. Maybe you see like, hey, can I go a little faster? Then you start to see other people like out of your corner of your eye. It's like, oh, they're doing this. I think I could do that. So they go use a machine. And they discover it's like, hey, I figured out how to use this machine. So they start to use that machine. So now they're getting into resistance training, right?
Yeah.
Just that step by step. It's just an action will lead to more motivation because it leads to success. You can see changes coming each and every time. So it's just getting like that initial action is probably the hardest one for a lot of people to get to.
Gotcha.
But once they start doing it, it's very hard to stop doing something because once you see that you're getting better at it, you're going to want to keep going.
Right.
It's like life. Once you start riding your bike, you're probably not going to want to put your bike down.
Right. Right.
But it sucks when you fall over and scrape your knee.
Yes. Yes.
Right. So it's going to suck initially. And when you suck, you don't really have a lot of motivation, but it's that action that keeps you going.
I love that. And I'm picturing it's like somebody's on the couch waiting for motivation when in fact the action of getting off the couch will then perhaps provide or facilitate the motivation. So putting the action before the motivation comes from an action. So getting out of the state of inertia or just of restlessness, not waiting for motivation to hit you. There's an action, which then from there, the motivation hits and then you're successful. I love how you broke that down. So cool. You mentioned the scraping of the knee thing. I want to just do a word association with failure, another often misinterpreted, in my opinion, word. And I'm more curious what you think of the word failure.
So failure, I think it has such a negative connotation when realistically it's a positive thing in our life that it allows us to grow. Failure shows that you were able to put yourself out there in a situation. It might not have worked out the way that you did, but you survived it, you're there, and you can learn from that experience, right? So a lot of people view failure as like a one-time thing. Like, I had cheesecake tonight with my dinner, like we were celebrating my anniversary, and now I'm off the rails. It's like, that's not a failure. That's a speed bump at most. Like the stress you put on yourself about that food that you ate is probably worse off. But again, that failure, like nobody likes to fail. Nobody likes to sit there and be like, oh, I'm not good at something. But again, you have to learn from those failures to come back and be better off in the long run. So again, like what a lot of people deem as failing isn't failing. It's only failing if you ever quit, if you just stop outright doing something. And sometimes you do have to just quit things. There's things in your life that you maybe don't want in your life anymore, and you just have to quit them. And that's okay. We can't view failure always as a negative thing. I find that it can be a very positive thing. It's hard to get through because we as people don't like admitting faults. We're very vulnerable. We're very tribalistic. We want to be like, especially men, we want to be the leader of the tribe for the most part, right?
Yeah.
We have that instinctually in us for some reason. Probably the excess amount of testosterone that we have.
Right.
But, you know, like men especially have a hard time admitting failure and admitting when they need help. So being able to do that is actually such a strength. And it's actually a positive thing. I think people view failure as a very negative thing. I view it as a very positive experience, especially if you learn and you don't make the same mistake twice.
Very well put. I have a very similar, very, very similar stance on it. And, you know, just to further it one more step is like, don't personalize it. It's not a personality trait. It's a fact of like, perhaps you don't know how to do something. And that's what you mentioned as a learning experience. So, you know, if you don't know how to do something, it's not a reflection on the ineptitude of you or like you're a lesser than. It's just that you haven't had the experience yet. So just removing the emotion from it, like this, like it's somehow a commentary on you as a person, and just realizing it's like you say, it's either a speed bump or it's a signal that there's some growth that needs to happen, as opposed to like I am a failure. It's not a personality trait. Get what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. I completely agree with that. And I feel like people like adapt to like take that and label themselves like,
100. Yeah, exactly.
And it's stupid things too. It's like, you know, you forgot to plug your car in at -30. I'm such a failure. It's like, what?
Right.
What? You forgot. Like, that's a human trait. Like, it's fine. You're going to be okay.
Right.
Like, you are not a failure. People just, they're too critical on themselves, I think. I think like they just so hard on themselves that it's.
Well, and this is, you know, it gets back to what we were talking about earlier in the interview, as far as like that shoebox that you talked about as well, right? Like if you're if you're labeling yourself as a failure, your brain is going to start looking for evidence that you're a failure. Case in point, you forgot to plug in the car. All of a sudden you're dogpiling on yourself for something that you simply forgot, right? So,
the way people talk to themselves, they would never talk to anybody else that way. Right?
100%. Yeah.
Imagine you're in a relationship where and I hope nobody's in a relationship like this, but
you're right. Yeah.
I'm not going to apologize for this, but like, if you misplaced your keys and you are running frantically trying to get to work, to ourselves, we're calling ourselves a freaking idiot and so dumb. And why can't you remember anything? You know, if you had your significant other right beside you, barking that in your ear, you would probably turn around and just like tell them off. Right?
Yeah.
If it was like your best friend doing that to you, you'd probably punch him in the face. Violence. But like, you know, if anybody else was talking to you that way, like you'd be throwing hands.
Yeah. Right.
Because it's ourselves. We're just like, it's just the way I talk to myself. It's like, it's not. Our self-talk is such a huge impact on how we view ourselves and how we go about our day-to-day. And I'm sure you deal with that much more than I deal with that. So.
Yeah. I have a whole, honestly, like not to make it about me, but just to clarify, yes, I have a whole module that I would do, like inner dialogue upgrade it's called, which is 100% exactly what we're talking about here. So we get back to your program. So 90 days, New Year plan, RK Athletics 1, follow you on Instagram. You're a great follow. I'm safe to say, and you said it yourself, most active on there. So if anybody wants to reach out, time recording, as we mentioned, December 22nd. I'm going to air this right away. You said, coming soon, the bonuses for this program, and that's in the next week. So make sure you give Rich a follow. RK Athletics 1. I will put this in the show notes as well. Any final words for today, Rich, heading into the holiday season? Oh, by the way, definitely look back at our part 1. It's a great episode. I would say the first 20 minutes or so is sort of like the origin story of Rich. And then about 25 minute mark, we do a whole holiday survival guide into setting resolutions that stick. So this is a very complimentary episode for that one. And that'll be found in the archives of this, of the podcast here. So Rich, any final words before we wrap things up today?
You know, I hope everybody have a happy holiday season, you know, a very safe New Year and Christmas. If those are things that you celebrate, above and beyond anything else, keep your goals in mind. This is a time of year that's going to happen every single year. It's not an excuse to just dive into whatever you want for, 4 weeks. However, you want to be good to yourself, make sure that you feed yourself with some good food that you don't always get to enjoy, and make sure that you're happy with whatever decisions that you make. Just know that I'm cheering for you. And if you want to follow me in any way, shape, or form, just follow Matt. I'd love to connect. I love chatting with people. I almost give away too much stuff for free, I think, in my mind, but I always want to help people regardless of what it is. So if you need help, feel free to reach out anytime.
Rich, thank you so much. And we are making this a trilogy. So ladies and gentlemen, there's going to be a podcast we're dropping right away. Rich is going to flip the hat backwards, and we're going to see a different side of Rich. I'll put it that way. You'll have to tune in to see what I'm talking about. But part 3 with Rich is coming up. Rich, thank you so much for coming on today.
Thank you so much, Matt.